Is it time? Can we
It
talk about
is.
it now?
Yes, it's time.
Yeah, we can talk about it.
We have hinted at it all episode. Maybe not all, but we've hinted at it a couple of times.
Nodded our heads towards it.
Yes.
The trade that occurred on the 1st of November of 2021, the LA Rams sent a 2022 second and third round pick to the Denver Broncos for Von Miller. Von will be accompanied by Leonard Floyd, Sebastian Joseph Day, and the best player in football, Aaron Donald, on that front. O-lines are scared. They need to be. They were scared before. They're frightened now.
The rich get richer, and only for two day two picks?
Yeah.
Yeah, but we have no capital now.
Yeah.
I mean, whenever you're not good in those 2 rounds, you're not gonna find a single player that's gonna give you the production of a Von Miller.
No.
No.
And to be honest with you, we draft well, but sometimes we miss. Tutu Atwell was not necessarily a great pick. So, coming off of this year's draft class, seeing the Rams needed help on defense. Yeah, maybe didn't look that way, but they have pieces on that defense where people don't know the names of the players. Very few people know who Nick Scott is, right? So, but he's a good player, by the way. You look him up. Vouching for my Rams players, but
I just thought, I mean, pass rush wasn't the point of emphasis that needed help on defense. I would have liked to see him go get like a off-ball linebacker.
Miles Jack. I thought if we were to make a play on a linebacker, I saw all the Rams accounts I follow, talking about, hey, let's get Miles Jack, Von Miller. I'm not mad.
Oh, are you
I
kidding?
hope not.
Who would be mad about that if you're a Rams fan?
Okay. As a Rams fan, I am not upset with it. But as an NFL fan, it does kind of I don't know if I like it. Just as a fan of the NFL, seeing Von Miller in different colors, it's going to be weird.
I think it was a change of scenery that was needed by both teams or both sides.
Yeah.
But going over to the next trade, we had Melvin Ingram going over to the Kansas City Chiefs in exchange for a 2022 6th-round pick. I mean, I understand it from Melvin's side that he wasn't getting the playing time that he was liking. He thinks that he's better that he was better than Alex Highsmith, who's the outside rusher, because that's what we used Melvin as. But I think that's a great pickup for the Chiefs. The pass rush for them has been spotty all year. Melvin Ingram is still a serviceable starter. The rich get richer.
Yeah. Seems to be a trend.
To break down some of the other major trades at the deadline, we had Dan Brown to the Chiefs, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif to the Jets, Charles Omenihu to the 49ers. That was really all the big trades at the deadline. So because the deadline was a little weak this year, Adam Schefter broke down all the bigger trades of the year. So outside of the deadline, we had Mark Ingram to the Saints, Flacco to the Jets, Kenny Young to the Broncos, Zach Ertz to the Cards, and then Stephon Gilmore and C.J. Henderson both going to the Panthers. So while the deadline may have been a little bit weaker than we expected, overall there have been some pretty big trades this year.
I feel like that kind of happens yearly, though. We trade deadline, and then we get 5 minutes past the deadline. We're like, well, nothing happened.
I think the NFL trade deadline, you'll have one every 5 years that's like, well, this deadline was amazing. There was just trades here and there and everywhere. It's not like the NBA or the NHL or these other leagues where rosters are smaller, where you're like, is this trade going to happen here, there? I remember the MLB deadline this year. We were all sitting at our phones waiting to see who the next guy was traded even 30 minutes after the deadline had ended.
Yeah, that shit was nuts. There were guys moving around left and right.
Yeah.
The entire Cubs organization was stripped down in like a week.
Yeah, let's not talk
Sorry,
about
buddy.
that anyways.
Sorry, buddy.
Football podcast.
Yeah, football. This is a football show.
Football show.
But the Chicago Bears are no better. It's okay
yeah,
though.
it's fine. Being a Chicago fan is rough right now, unless you're a Bulls fan. Anyways, football podcast. So Zach Ertz to the Cardinals, by the way, might be one of my favorite trades because he was looking to be a tight end one somewhere. Goes to the Cardinals. He's instantly tight end one if you ask me. And the offense is just that much better, and he's already made an impact for him.
Yeah, Ertz to Arizona. That's going to be a sneaky move that I feel like can help him a lot moving forward because he's one of those guys who has experience winning, experience in the playoffs. He's been on an underdog team, and whether the Cardinals have had they did have the best record in football. They still have quite a bit of momentum, but they're still kind of the underdogs. No one really expected them to do a whole lot this year. And now they are, but there's still questions around, oh, well, they just lost to the Packers without their starting 3 receivers. I like Ertz to the Cardinals. I feel like he can bring a lot of wisdom to that locker room. I hate it as a Rams fan, but I think that was a really good move.
Well, you'll be fine. Your defense is better than that.
Who's gonna cover him, Vaughn?
I mean, after trading your pick for him, I hope so.
Shoot.
I mean, you can't be afraid to mix things up a little bit, you know?
Who would you rather have in coverage, Von Miller or Leonard Floyd?
Leonard Floyd, so that way Vaughn can be rushed.
Good answer.
Fair.
No, but okay, to go back onto the Vaughn situation, I do kind of have a question about that move.
Mhm.
His contract is up at the end of the year, and I question whether or not we're going to be able to keep him around for the future. I mean, like financially, the Rams don't seem to be able to keep him. Add another contract, to the long list of contracts. Because there's no way he takes, like a veteran's minimum or something, which is pretty much what he'd have to take, at least right now with how their money's set up. Now, Les Snead loves to kick the can down the road, move money around, change guaranteed money. We have seen the Rams prove that the salary cap is a myth. I don't know if they'll restructure it and maybe try to keep him moving forward. But if it is for just this year and they gave up a second and third round pick, they've got to win it all, right? Like, I hate saying that as a Rams fan. This is a win now year because you never want to look at a season that way. Because if you look at it that way, that probably means that moving forward, you might be screwed a little bit. So I hope we're at least able to keep him for at least through next year, but is a second and a third for half of a season of Von Miller really worth it, especially if you don't make the Super Bowl? Not really, and at least in my opinion. What do you guys think?
I mean, it looks like the Rams have put all their chips into the middle of the table, and they're wanting to go for it. I mean, even if you don't keep them for next year, I still think you guys are still a great team. It's just,
well, yeah, we were the same, or we'd just be relatively the same team we were 2 days ago.
Yeah, exactly.
But with less draft capital and kind of a little less of a bright future, because there's not a lot of young guys on that team.
I mean, it all depends on how Vaughn comes out and plays. If he comes out and gets 6.5 sacks, I feel like he gets re-signed. But if he comes out and doesn't do anything, it's you won't sign him again.
Yeah, that there's a lot of boomer bust potential in that trade.
Yeah.
Let's talk about a couple. Oh,
I was gonna say the same thing. After
how
you,
about
sir.
that?
You go ahead.
Let's talk about a couple of trades that didn't happen. Who were some trades, or who were some guys that you kind of wish would have gotten moved? Jake, if you want to start first.
As much as I love him, Allen Robinson should have been moved. I had this talk last week and just yesterday actually with one of my friends. We were talking about it, and the Bears are in such a weird situation because they have a win now mentality in the middle of a rebuild. So the question becomes, what moves do you need to make if you're the Bears to not only give you the best chance to win, but to help develop your quarterback? Well, names were on the board for trades such as Odell Beckham Jr. maybe. I think an Odell for Allen Robinson deal straight up would have worked, and it would have benefited both teams, in my opinion. At that point, yes, Allen Robinson makes the big plays, but now you've got a guy who's known for making the big plays if you make that trade. Not to mention, you don't have to worry about putting a franchise tag on Allen Robinson again next year and him probably not signing it because he wants out of Chicago that bad. Because it's obvious to me that Ryan Pace does not want to pay him at this point. They have, as far as I'm aware, they haven't even had contract discussions, and we're going into week 9. They haven't even discussed, they didn't discuss a contract until they put the franchise tag on him last year, if that tells you anything. So, to me, the smart move for Ryan Pace and the Bears to make was to trade Allen Robinson for at least a second or trade him for OBJ straight up. I think it was just the smart move. Get that money off the table that you're not willing to pay anyways. Get a guy who's known for making big plays, and maybe you're less scared of taking a big shot in the game. The problem is Justin Fields' mental clock for passing the ball is 1 Mississippi 2, and by 2, that ball has to be out of his hands because that's how bad the offensive line is. That's my take on it. I know, Roning, you disagreed with that early on before the show, but I feel like it's a compelling argument.
You know, you definitely swayed me a little bit, and I would have really liked a Allen Robinson for OBJ trade. You, I that would have been very, very interesting. And OBJ is actually my pick for the guy that I wish he would have been that would have been traded. I was surprised that OBJ didn't get moved. I assumed his lack of production and his dad tweeting about uh, I think it was a picture or a video of Baker not throwing OBJ the ball.
A 10-minute compilation of Baker
Wow.
Mayfield missing Odell Beckham.
Okay.
And the first play was Odell Beckham was wide open on a streak route, and it was completely to his back shoulder, 5 yards away from him.
Odell is an extremely talented player, but that Cleveland offense just doesn't need him, do they? I mean,
I
it
mean,
doesn't seem like.
it seems like every time he's not on the field, the Browns excel. He tore
Yeah.
he tore his ACL against the Bengals last year, and then they went on a run to beat Pittsburgh in the playoffs. I just don't know why they are wanting to hold on to him so bad. He has not shown anything this year on why you should keep him, and then with his dad liking posting those tweets and all that stuff, now it's a drama club up in Cleveland.
I
Yeah, I
think
feel like. Oh, go ahead.
I think with that offense, it's the idea of having another threat on the field. Though they may excel without him out there, it's still the idea of having two top 10, 15 wide receivers on the field at the same time. And I mentioned it earlier. The Bears walk out there and run a 2 route play with only 4 people rushing at them. You can't do that unless you've got 2 top guys in the league, and I think I compared it to that situation in Cleveland. The Bears don't have OBJ and Juice. They've got A-Rob and Darnell Mooney. So I think that's really what Cleveland is thinking about with keeping OBJ, is just having an extra weapon on the field. Even if
Right.
it does hurt them in the long run, they trust their defense enough, and I don't blame them for trusting that defense.
I thought he needed to go somewhere where he could be the focal point, or at least a focal point. Because,
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about that Cleveland offense, Chubb is 1, Hunt when healthy is 2, and then Jarvis is 3. I mean, I can't really blame him if he wanted out. I'd like to
It's
see him get the ball more.
it's hard
He's a
to
he's
look
a
at a
hell of a
team.
player.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to look at a team and see OBJ on the roster and be like, he's not one of the top 3 weapons.
Exactly.
I wish the Packers would have made a move for OBJ.
That would have been something, wouldn't it have been?
Have
You think Aaron would be enticed to stay a little bit more if they would have traded for
you
OBJ?
know, if OBJ was on the roster, yeah, I think he might stay one more year.
I think he'd write out
Financially, they
all
probably
3
couldn't
years of the
take it,
contract
though.
rather than 2.
But without OBJ on the roster, no, he's not staying there.
No.
I disagree.
Oh,
Mm.
yeah, we talked about this last night.
You know what? Let's go ahead and talk about it. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers is going to leave Green Bay. And here's why, okay? Someone in that office has to be thinking, is Jordan Love really going to be better than Aaron Rodgers at the end of his career? Like in Aaron Rodgers' last few years? Like, what are the chances that you hit 3 quarterbacks in a row? Right? Is Jordan Love? I think he's a really good talent, but I think this is going to end up. Now, I don't want to say it will end up. I think it could end up like a New England situation with Garoppolo. Yeah, the front office, everybody's kind of split. Then they trade away the backup to really, kind of double down on the starter or QB1. I think that Jordan Love could potentially. I don't know about getting shipped off, but I think Aaron could stick around at least to finish out his contract through
You know,
2022.
you didn't bring that up last night. I was thinking like the Packers were going to hold on to Jordan Love, but I mean, if Aaron could sway the front staff to trading Jordan Love, then yeah, I would stay there for the rest. But I just with them drafting Jordan Love and then him needing a receiver help, them drafting Eric Stokes, it's completely just not want to have interest in that team past this year.
I remember watching the first game of the year for the Packers and then watching the post game after they lost and everybody was so disappointed at their performance. Aaron Rodgers did not look like he wanted to be there. Now look at him. Dude is out there having fun still with this team. They haven't lost since. I don't if they can make a move in the offseason to get him a better wide receiver too, because let's be honest, Lazard and Marquez Valdes-Scantling, putting him next to the best receiver in football, arguably, you're basically just looking at Devontae Adams 90% of the time. If they could
Yeah,
get him a second target and a good wide receiver too,
Like
Rodgers
a,
is enticed to stay and potentially even re-sign.
I don't think that receiving core is necessarily bad, but I do
It's
think it could get better.
No,
It
it's not bad, but you can look up a compilation on YouTube of Valdes-Scantling just dropping the ball. That he sometimes he comes up big, but a lot of other times he drops 50% of his targets. And it's not overthrows, it's drops.
But I
if
mean, okay, you compare the Packers receiving core to the Steelers or to the Broncos. How much better are theirs than the Packers?
The
I feel like the
Broncos,
Packers might be better.
I'd say they're better, but the Broncos receiving core to me is a little bit younger and less
Oh
experienced.
yeah.
Eh,
collectively, the Broncos have a better receiving core than the Packers. But if you go by player, it's the Packers.
Yeah.
Or if that makes sense.
No,
Yeah.
that's the argument I would make, honestly.
I mean, the Broncos have Sutton, Judy, Hamler, Kendall Hinton, all them people. And then when you go to the Packers, it's Devontae Adams, and then it's a steep decline. I feel like if they could get like a receiver like Robert Woods, like to hold down the wide receiver 2 position, it's just that would entice him to stay longer.
Yeah, I think if they can go out, get a good wide receiver too, get a reason for Aaron Rodgers to stay, like everybody's been saying all along, he'll finish out this contract at the very least. I'd I wouldn't even be mad if they went out and got, say, a Cole Beasley. He's a solid wide receiver too for anybody. he's a wide receiver 1 in some systems. A Cole Beasley
fair.
would complement Devontae Adams very well, in my opinion. But I guess we'll see. Rodgers is guaranteed to stay, I think, at least one more year there out of his 3 years. I guess we'll see.
Yeah. Colby, is there a guy you wish
Yeah,
could have been traded?
getting back to the trade talk. I really thought we were going to see a move for Deshaun Watson, but looking back at it now with all 22 of the legal cases, those are going to need to get figured out before he gets traded. But I saw a report where the Dolphins and the Texans and the Washington football team were all linked in a 3-team trade to get Tua out, to get Deshaun put in Miami, just to get all that, and then just for it to come this Tuesday and nothing happens.
I believe Miami announced just an hour before the deadline hit that they were not making a trade, and that surprised the heck out of me.
I mean,
I wasn't that surprised with all those legal cases. I wouldn't give up my future if you don't even know
Right.
what's going on in those. You'd have to be very, very, very comfortable that he's either well, hopefully he's innocent. If he isn't, then he should. I don't think he should be playing for an NFL team. But
I mean, yeah, no, he needs to get the legal issues figured out. But the Roger Goodell said that if a team were to trade for Watson, Watson could have played. Watson's not like
He's not suspended or anything, as far as I'm
yeah,
aware.
right,
if he wanted to suit up and play for the Texans, he could. He's just choosing not to, which is the smart idea.
Yeah.
yeah,
It's such a weird situation. It's something that it feels like we haven't really seen anything like it. And now here we are in the midst of it, and we're like, well, what's going to happen?
All because the GM wouldn't let Deshaun Watson put in his 2 cents. Not even, just go listen to Deshaun Watson on who he wants to coach or who he wants his head coach to be or the GM.
Right.
That's if they would have just went up to him and asked that, we wouldn't be having a problem with it.